Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you. So today is the fourth part of our series called Living on Purpose, and we've been tracking the evolution of our understanding of our personal purpose. Why have we come to earth, as a beautiful song Boris sang, to love, serve, and remember? How we can use our church's purpose statement. We've taken the four different pieces of it and see how we can apply this to our own lives. I want to do a little rebrief of those, recap, I guess. A brief recap is what I was trying to say, of these 4 weeks that we've explored and tie them together before we go into this. But before I do that, I want to really honor the century of community building that has happened with Unity of Houston. We celebrated our 100th anniversary last year, and just incredible. And I've looked back at some of the previous statements of purpose and mission and who we are and vision statements, and they're all beautiful and they're all right and definitely right for that time. But as we were creating this new statement, now almost 3 years old, 2 years old, I guess. I don't remember, some years old. That we had one of the members of our drafting team, Amy Hageman, she and I, she's a young mom here in our community, we talked about it. After it was complete, it was a lot of work, and she said, I want to say that, Michael, I grew up in this church, and I've seen several of these statements, and every time I felt pride, I felt connection to it, but it was always like, that's what my church is doing. And she said, with this purpose statement, this is what we are doing. And I feel that has been the shift at Unity of Houston, that we have become much more community-focused. Here's the thing. You can be a spectator at church where you just get to show up and hear fantastic music like that and hear an inspiring message, hopefully, and then go home and not have any skin in the game, as they say. But what we're hoping is to build a community where people give of their gifts and talents together to create something. So, we started with week 1, which was in community. That is the container for all that we're doing right now. It's about building spiritual community. And that does not just mean those who are here in Houston, who when we are open are able to enter the doors. We are finding that's been a real gift of the pandemic for us in this church, is that we now have people who are taking classes and who are in spirit groups and who are financially supporting this ministry from all over the world. And that has been a gift, and we want to continue that, even when we are on the other side of this. We are still a community. We're finding ways to build relationships. The second is that in community, we nurture and empower each other. That was week 2. Now, there's a lot of juice in that one, that nurturing being more the divine feminine aspect of the way we are in relationship, and empowering is the divine masculine. And what happens is when we nurture and empower each other, we can move right into the next line of we transform our lives. We feel supported. We are given the tools that we need by our spiritual community so that we can do the work of our own healing. And we can become who God has really called us to be, and we can be transformed from the lesser that we thought we were into the greater that God always knew we were. Last week we talked about the power of spiritual transformation. And what does that do? It leads us to this week. If we have done our work, if we have healed our false beliefs and let go of our lesser identities and stepped into the truth that I am here to be the light of the world, as Jesus said, then I am able to serve. And so this week, that we may serve the world. Rabindranath Tagore, who is an amazing Hindu poet, he said it this way, I dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and found that life was service. I acted and discovered that service is joy. All of the spiritual traditions agree that the path of personal fulfillment must involve serving other people. It's just the way it's built. It feels kind of paradoxical and miraculous. As a matter of fact, I've called this point of my talk today the miracle of service. I remember when I first got sober in AA that I would hear people talk about that it just seems so counterintuitive. I need to spend all my time and energy on cleaning up the mess I've made through my addictive behavior, and yet I come into these rooms and I'm told I need to be of service to others. One guy who said, it's like my house was on fire and my sponsor kept telling me to mow the yard. That's how much sense it made. How does making a bad cup of coffee help me? I need help. And yet it does. And so it's one of the most powerful things in that tradition is that right in the beginning, people are told, you have something valuable to give. We need your contribution. We need you to serve. And here's the great thing about it. Let me say it this way. We think we're going to get what we want when we are self-serving, and we find that it is a bottomless pit of desire and grasping and trying to acquire the next thing. Self-serving leads us nowhere. But when we give ourselves away in service of a community or an ideal, in service of social change, we are expanded. We become more of who we're meant to be. We are fulfilled. It's the difference between fulfillment, as Michael Beckwith says, and fulfillment is serving others. Last week, I mentioned a quote by Ernest Holmes, and I wanted to bring it back in today because it really fits what I'm speaking about. The quote is, "There is a power greater than I am in the universe, and I can use it." This is Kingdom 2 of the stages of spiritual evolution, and it's powerful and it's important that I have the creative energy within me to create that which I desire to experience in my life. Powerful, amazing. If you're really into that, come back for our spirit group, not our spirit groups, yes that, but for our Touchstone program that we're going to start September 27th. 6 weeks of the technology of conscious creation, how we use the law to create the life of our dreams. It's important. We're not going to let that go. There is a power for good in the universe, greater than I am, and I can use it. But last week I mentioned that there is another place of spiritual evolution just beyond that, which we might rephrase Ernest Holmes' saying to say this: there is a power greater than I am in this universe, and it can use me. That what if there is some greater work, some greater healing, some greater possibility than I could do alone? But if I offer my gifts and my willingness into the whole, something amazing can happen. Jacob Braudy says, "Whoever you are, there is some younger person who thinks you're perfect. There is some work that will never be done if you don't do it. There is someone who will miss you if you're gone, and there is a place that you alone can fill." Philosophically, God don't make no mistakes. You are here for a holy purpose. You are here because you are needed. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "The fact that I am here shows that the soul had need of an organ. Shall I not assume the post?" That you are designed, prepared, called, and equipped for this time to be who you are, bringing your gift for the healing of humanity. No pressure. But we need you. We need you to step into the authentic place that you are created for, and to give the authentic gift you have been created with, and to be the authentic soul that you are created, as you are created to be. This is the time. Maya Angelou, lovely Maya Angelou, says, "We need joy as we need air, we need love as we need water, and we need each other as we need the earth we share." We need each other. And if we can stop picking sides and blaming the others and recognize that we are all in this together, and step into being an active part of solution and healing and becoming, It is the path of healing for us individually and for our humanity. You are here for a holy purpose. All these cliches are coming into my message this morning, but they work. Little bumper stickers. God does not call the equipped. God equips the called. Some of you are waiting to get perfect before you start sharing your gift to serve others. Please do not do that. As you step into, I was thinking about our singers today, that my first time to sing or play music at a Sunday church service was really bad. I was 8 years old. I had a little toy organ. I had never taken a lesson, but I had a number and a letter. And I pushed this letter button. It was a chord. And I pushed this number button. It was the melody. And I played a hymn. And they loved me. They loved me. I wasn't equipped to be a church musician, but I was called. There was something about music. I was that kid that would always sneak up to the piano in the church. We didn't have any music at home, really. And then the church ladies would shoo me away from it because I was just a kid banging. But I kept coming back. And finally, my parents realized he's really interested in this. They bought me this, $20 little organ, and I played. And then the next time I played at church, I was a little bit better. Then they found piano lessons, $10 a month for a half-hour lesson each week. That's how much Mrs. Zeta Smith charged. And I was scared to death. I didn't know her, and I went in there, and I was not very good the first year. At her recitals every spring, she would go from worst to best, kind of build up to something. The first year, I was worst. The second year, I was third from the best. Something had started to happen. Something kind of caught a hold. A gift in me got ignited. After that, I was the star of the recital in Barnesdall, Oklahoma. But really, it's that people gave me an opportunity to step into my gifts, and I got to grow into it. I just love these singers, and I love that they are so willing. And Boris is our pro. He's been doing this his whole life with such amazing gift and grace. I know that he would tell you what I'm saying is true. To any of you out there who are seeking to step into your gift, you don't have to be a rock star your first time out. Just give it a go. See what happens. And if you do it in community, man. So the last thing I want to talk about today is this idea of, really, this is the philosophical underpinning of all that we do. It is our name, unity, oneness. There is such a tendency to separate and to cause these lines. The people that think this are with me, people who think that are against me. And I don't want to dwell too much on our political and social and cultural divides right now, but I have to speak to it. We had another police shooting this week in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Jacob Blake, and I will continue to speak these names. It's heartbreaking, and I know that people have differences of opinions about what happened in the aftermath with the young 17-year-old, with the shooting suspect. And here's what I've been seeing this week. It's had me so heartsick. I couldn't even watch the news. Back to my meditation practice every morning, like water for a man dying of thirst is how it's felt. I just need something that will restore my soul, because this time we are living through is so hard. And kind of staying off of social media, because y'all are definitely choosing sides. And not everyone. I know that there are people who are doing beautiful, loving, and community-building posts out there, but some of it is just so filled with otherizing and dehumanizing, and it's they're the problem. So I want to give you two things today which I think will help us in context on how we move through such a divided time in our culture. They may not give us the solutions on how to fix it, but maybe they will help us understand what's happening. And for me, that is often the doorway into healing. The first is a human tendency to scapegoat. This is old. This happens in every culture, in every religion. and don't think that we've outgrown it, that we have not. It was the reason during the social and economic unrest after World War I in Germany that somebody had to be to blame for all this. And one voice rose up and said, it's them, the Jews. And we saw the horrors of scapegoating taken to its logical conclusion is to dehumanize, to murder. We're not there in our nation, but the precursor of that is here, that we are tending to find somebody to blame. I'm not going to mention her by name because I didn't ask permission, but a dear friend in this church who she and I have had so many big conversations over the years. We want to say we're that love everybody church, which sounds really nice and easy, and it is hard work to live up to that truth. And she wrote me, she said, I wanted to share with you how I'm learning to deal with the love everybody message. As I struggled with this, my husband reminded me what Confucius had to say. Return kindness with kindness. Return injury with justice. I later learned that Reverend Martin Luther King said, justice is what love looks like in public. I found both of these sayings to be good guides. Justice is not motivated by hatred. It is always fair. It's not revenge. It is a nuanced face of love. When something like what happened to Jacob Blake this week, or Trayvon Martin, or George Floyd, or Breonna Taylor, or any of the names that we've seen their lives taken out, our tendency is righteous anger, or I've seen others who are like, well, they must have done something to deserve that. And that is a tendency that is as old as humanity. I'm in pain, something is upsetting, who's to blame? These two boys in Sunday school, they were ornery. I know some people pronounce it ornery, but in Oklahoma, am I right? Ornery. That's the way you pronounce it, yeah. They were ornery. And finally, the Sunday school teacher just had all she had, and she said, you're going to go talk to the pastor. Now, we are mean people, senior ministers. And so these two young boys, brothers, Jimmy and Johnny, they were brought in, and one at a time. Johnny came first. Now, the pastor knew that the teacher had been trying to get under their bad behavior by talking to them about God lives in your heart. How can you be stealing and hitting people when God lives in your heart? And the pastor knew this, and so he saw Johnny there, and he said, Johnny, where is God? Johnny's eyes got wide. Johnny, where is God? He was just petrified. He didn't know what to do. One more time, where is God? Johnny got up from the chair, ran out, and went all the way home. Jimmy saw what had happened. He followed his brother. He said, we couldn't find him. He was hiding in the closet. He said, Johnny, what happened? He said, well, they can't find God, and they think we did it. It's so natural and so incomplete and so unhelpful to find people to blame. I've been saying it from the beginning since George Floyd died. We are not going to blame our way out of this. What we must do instead, is find a way that we can see our tendency to scapegoat, just be aware of it, know that that's what we're doing, and put our focus instead on justice. What is fair? What is the right response for things that happen that is not motivated by hatred or getting even? So I hope that those two things will be useful to you. As I mentioned, we saw what happened in Nazi Germany when scapegoating was taken to its ultimate end. And I was talking to my friend Cindy Wigglesworth, one of our board members this week, and she had a beautiful insight. I didn't ask her permission either, but I think she'll be okay with me sharing with this, because she also is one of our co-leaders for our Healing the Heart of America initiative. She's these big questions of how we get better as a people are really important to her, and she's a big mind, and she was thinking about it, and she said, I wonder if all the turmoil that we're going through right now is we're going through this instead of another war. And that got my attention. Because you can look back at every previous century that was always where it headed. We had a civil war in this nation. There was a civil war in many nations. It's always, that's the logical, again, we can otherize so much to the point that we will kill our cousins and uncles across the lines. We will send our children to be killed in service of being right. So I just want us to hold that context, that we are wrestling with big, big wounds that need big, big healing. And we are not at war. And if each of us individually can come back to a place of recognizing that the need to blame is universal and it's old and we all have it, but when we do it, pull back and see that we've done it. And recognize the need that for justice, for fairness without hatred is needed for us now. Mother Teresa says, if we have no peace, it is because we have forgotten we belong to each other. And then she also said this. These are my favorite two Mother Teresa quotes. We can do no great things, only small things with great love. See, that's it. The problems right now are so big. What can I do? How can I possibly be of any value in these gigantic problems that we face as a people? And that quote from Mother Teresa, simple nun, living in the poorest of the poor, with the poorest of the poor in Calcutta, India, serving hands-on. The babies that were left to die on the street, they would bring them in and nurse them back to health. The beggars that had nothing, they would take them in, they would feed them and care for them as best they could. There are no great acts, only small acts with great love. And that brings to mind a story I heard this week. I've been sharing a lot of my Richard Rohr podcast listening. Jean Marie and I both love that podcast. And there are two young people who kind of co-host the podcast. They're Another Name for Everything with Richard Rohr, a wonderful Catholic priest. And Paul Swanson is one of them. And this week they were talking, well, it was actually, I think, last month when they were doing it, but I listened to it yesterday. And Paul was talking about a time when he deconstructed his Christian faith that he grew up in, and he was kind of lost. And one of the reasons that he lost his faith was because he saw so much injustice and so much pain, so much hypocrisy in the Christianity the world that he grew up in. And so he pulled away from church and was trying to find his way through life. And he was working for a time as a caregiver in a group home for developmentally disabled people. And he said he just sort of found himself there. And one of the things that he was asked to do was to bathe some of the residents. And he had never done this. He was a young man in his 20s, and that was really outside of his comfort zone. And there was one particular resident, a young man named Kevin, severely mentally disabled. And he was known to be resistant to the bath. And it was Paul's job to bathe him. And so he had a lot of fear, and he got in there, and he starts working. And he says Jacob grabbed his wrist and scratched him. And he was in the bathroom bleeding and going, I can't do this. I can't do this. And he said, a voice, I'm sorry, came from deep within him that said, what if he is the Christ? What if Kevin is the Christ? And something in him rose up. A gentleness, the deepest, most loving service that he had ever experienced. And he was able to bathe this young man, knowing that as he did, he was bathing the Christ. I am very emotional. I think there's a weight, a cumulative weight of all that we've been going through. And 2 weeks ago, almost 3 weeks ago actually, one of our own ended a long battle with depression by taking his own life, and it's hard. Leaving behind a beautiful wife and 2 young adult sons. And I had spent some time in counsel with him and with his wife and one of the sons, and it's just been hard. Yesterday we had his memorial service, and we were practicing our social distancing, and it felt important. We've seen that the incidence of coronavirus has been going down, and we felt like we could have 25 people in our pyramid that would normally seat 300. We thought we could do that safely, and so we had a service. We put it on the internet. It was on Facebook, and it was so beautiful and healing to remember Glenn, the healthy, vibrant Glenn, funny, loving, dedicated to his family above all else. It was just beautiful. I was so moved by so much of it, and I texted his wife, Libby, this morning. I asked her if it would be okay if I talked about this, and she said she would be honored. And so, at one point, Libby shared, and she talked about, she's made no secret about the way he died and what they have been going through the last couple of years, and very brave and loving. And then she talked about what a cut-up Glenn was and how much he loved his kids. And then after she spoke, Glenn's oldest son, Jackson, got up to share, and just filled with love and appreciation for his dad. He had come back home to help his mom and dad deal with what they were going through, and he sang this incredible song. It was just amazing. I cried so much, and I'm officiating, and I'm up there just, trying to hold it together. And then there was a space for other people to share, and family members came and talked, and I noticed that there were more of our community there than I expected. We only allowed, I think, 25 people, but there were quite a few, and I didn't know that they were close to Glenn. And then Nancy, one of our beautiful members, she went to the microphone and she revealed the secret. She said that we're part of Glenn and Libby's spirit group. And then she said, if I could I just invite all of the spirit group to stand? And they were all there. And that was the piece that just really broke my heart open. We don't have to be able to solve the world's problems. What we have to do is learn how to be here for each other. And when we go through painful things, that we can stand up. We can support, we can bake a pie, is what we used to do in Oklahoma, with a lot of sugar in it. We could just come to the service. We can send a text message. We can do those simple acts of showing up for each other. I'm so aware in this moment of the goodness of humanity. I'm so aware that we truly are built in the image and likeness of divine love. I am so aware that we are called to demonstrate this love. Jesus said, "They will know you are followers of mine by your love one for another." I wonder how many Christians today could even be convicted in a court of law of being a Christian by demonstrating love for others. I want to leave you today with hope. We are indeed in a dark time in humanity at a human level, but there is a deeper truth, a truth of infinite good, and we are of that. And when we are willing, as faulted and flawed as we are, to be open to being love's vessel, and show up for one another, that can change the world. In community, we nurture and empower each other, transforming our lives that we may serve the world. If no one has told you today that they love you, I love you. You are amazing. We need you. God bless you. Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.